Another day, another story. Humans have made great strides in spaceflight and space exploration in the relatively short amount of time since such feats were first accomplished. Here we explore 5 of the most important and memorable moments in spaceflight history. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. First satellite in space. On October 4, 1957, Sputnik 1 became the first satellite to be launched by man, inaugurating the space age. According to Britannica's Aerospace Industry article, the launch of Sputnik in 1957 signaled not only Soviet technical leadership in a new field but also the capability and extent of Soviet large missile development and production. This leadership persisted into the era of manned spaceflight, and, exploiting a minimalistic but sophisticated approach to technology, it continued in the pioneering era of space vehicles and space stations. Weight and design. Sputnik 1 had a spherical shape with 4 external radio antennas and radio transmitters. It had a diameter of about 58 centimeters, 23 inches, and weighed approximately 83.6 kilograms, about 184 pounds. Mission objectives. The primary purpose of Sputnik 1 was to demonstrate the capability of launching an artificial satellite into Earth's orbit. It transmitted radio signals, allowing it to be tracked by ground stations, and its beeping radio signals could be received by radio operators around the world. Impact. The successful launch of Sputnik 1 had significant geopolitical implications, sparking the beginning of the space age and the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Sputnik 1's successful orbit marked the start of human space exploration and initiated a series of subsequent space missions as countries around the world began to invest in space technology and exploration. First man in space. On April 12, 1961, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, on board the Vostok 1 spacecraft, became the first human in space. The voyage, which began with launch at 9:07 a.m. Moscow time, entailed one orbit around Earth, lasting 1 hour 29 minutes, and ended at 10:55 a.m. in the Soviet Union with his safe return to Earth. It also brought Gagarin immediate worldwide fame. The first human to journey into outer space was Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet cosmonaut. Here are the key details about Yuri Gagarin's historic spaceflight. Date of the flight. Yuri Gagarin's spaceflight took place on April 12, 1961. Spacecraft. Gagarin flew aboard the spacecraft Vostok 1, which was a spherical capsule. Launch vehicle. The launch vehicle used for the mission was a Vostok K rocket. Orbit. Vostok 1 completed one orbit around Earth during its mission. Duration of the flight. The entire mission, from launch to landing, lasted approximately 108 minutes. Achievement. Yuri Gagarin's successful spaceflight made him the first human to orbit the Earth, a historic achievement that demonstrated the Soviet Union's capabilities in space exploration during the Cold War. Famous quote. Gagarin's famous words during the mission were, "Poikali. Let's go," or "Off we go," signaling the start of his journey into space. Yuri Gagarin's pioneering spaceflight made a significant impact on the world and marked a major milestone in the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. His successful mission demonstrated the feasibility of human space travel and inspired subsequent generations of astronauts and cosmonauts. The Lunar Landing. The Apollo 11 spaceflight, which on July 20, 1969, achieved its goal of landing the first humans on the Moon, was arguably one of the most momentous events in 20th century space exploration. The flight, landing, and return of the spacecraft to Earth was witnessed on television by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. As Britannica's biography on Apollo 11 Commander Neil Armstrong recounts, on July 16, 1969, Armstrong, along with Edwin E. Aldrin Jr. and Michael Collins, blasted off in the Apollo 11 vehicle toward the Moon. 4 days later, at 4:17 p.m. U.S. Eastern Daylight Time, EDT, the Eagle lunar landing module, guided manually by Armstrong, touched down on a plain near the southwestern edge of the Sea of Tranquility, Mare Tranquillitatis. At 10:56 p.m. EDT on July 20, 1969, Armstrong stepped from the Eagle onto the Moon's dusty surface with the words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." In the excitement of the moment, Armstrong skipped the A in the statement that he had prepared. Armstrong and Aldrin left the module for more than 2 hours and deployed scientific instruments, collected surface samples, and took numerous photographs. The lunar landing refers to the historic event when humans first set foot on the Moon. The most well-known lunar landing is associated with NASA's Apollo program, specifically the Apollo 11 mission. Here are the key details of the Apollo 11 lunar landing. Mission crew. 1. Commander, Neil Armstrong. 2. Lunar Module Pilot, Edwin Buzz Aldrin. 3. Command Module Pilot, Michael Collins. Launch. 1. The Apollo 11 mission was launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida on July 16, 1969, using a Saturn V rocket. Lunar Module Descent. 1. The lunar module, named Eagle, separated from the command module in lunar orbit on July 20, 1969. 2. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin descended to the lunar surface in the lunar module. Landing. 1. The lunar module landed on the Moon's surface on July 20, 1969, at the Sea of Tranquility. 2. Neil Armstrong famously transmitted the words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," as he became the first person to set foot on the lunar surface. Activities on the Moon. 1. Armstrong and Aldrin conducted a variety of experiments, collected lunar samples, and deployed scientific instruments. 2. They planted the American flag on the lunar surface. Return to Earth. 1. The astronauts spent a total of about 21 hours on the lunar surface. 2. After completing their activities on the Moon, the lunar module ascended to rendezvous with the command module in lunar orbit. 3. The astronauts then returned to Earth, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean on July 24, 1969. The success of the Apollo 11 mission marked a significant achievement in human space exploration and fulfilled the goals set by President John F. Kennedy to land a man on the Moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the 1960s. The Apollo program continued with several subsequent missions, but Apollo 11 remains one of the most iconic and historic moments in the history of space exploration. Launch of the Hubble Space Telescope. On April 25, 1990, the Hubble Space Telescope, named after Edwin Powell Hubble, was placed into orbit by crew members of the Space Shuttle Discovery. The Large Reflecting Telescope was the most sophisticated optical observatory ever to orbit Earth, and the photographs it collected ultimately revolutionized the field of astronomy. The Hubble Space Telescope, HST, was launched into space on April 24, 1990, aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-31 mission. The launch took place from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Here are some key details about the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope. Mission details. Space Shuttle, Discovery, STS-31. Launch date, April 24, 1990. Launch site, Kennedy Space Center, Florida, USA. Deployment. The Hubble Space Telescope was deployed into low Earth orbit from the Space Shuttle's payload bay. Significance. First major optical telescope in space, the Hubble Space Telescope is a space-based observatory that has provided astronomers with unprecedented views of the universe. It is the first major optical telescope to be placed in space, allowing it to avoid the distortions caused by Earth's atmosphere. Scientific goals. The primary scientific goals of the Hubble Space Telescope included studying distant galaxies, nebulae, and other celestial objects with remarkable clarity. Hubble's observations have contributed to numerous discoveries and advancements in astrophysics. Corrective optics. After its launch, it was discovered that Hubble's primary mirror had a manufacturing flaw, causing images to be blurred. In 1993, Astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour conducted a spacewalk to install corrective optics, effectively fixing the issue and restoring the telescope's imaging capabilities. Impact: the Hubble Space Telescope has had a profound impact on astronomy and astrophysics. Its observations have led to breakthroughs in our understanding of the age and expansion rate of the universe, the discovery of new celestial objects, and the study of distant galaxies. The telescope continues to be operational, and subsequent servicing missions have upgraded its instruments, ensuring its scientific capabilities. The Hubble Space Telescope remains one of the most important tools for astronomers, capturing breathtaking images and providing valuable data that contribute to our knowledge of the cosmos. Flight of the first private spacecraft. On June 21, 2004, Spaceship One, designed and developed by an aerospace development company known as Scaled Composites of Mojave, California, which was founded in 1982 by American aircraft designer Burt Rutan, author of Britannica Spaceship One article, became the first private manned space vehicle to fly past the boundary of space. The vehicle was flown by South African-born American test pilot Mike Melville, who, in successfully soaring past the edge of space, became the first commercial astronaut pilot. The term private spacecraft could refer to various vehicles developed by private companies for space exploration, satellite deployment, or crewed missions. As of my last knowledge update in January 2022, one notable example is SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. I'll provide information on the first crewed flight of a private spacecraft, which involves SpaceX's Crew Dragon. SpaceX Crew Dragon Demo 2. 1. Launch date, May 30, 2020. 2. Spacecraft, Crew Dragon spacecraft. 3. Launch vehicle, Falcon 9 rocket. 4. Mission objectives. SpaceX's Crew Dragon Demo 2 was a demonstration mission to the International Space Station, ISS, as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. 5. Crew. NASA astronauts Robert Behnken and Douglas Hurley were the crew members. 6. Launch site, Kennedy Space Center, Florida, USA. 7. Achievements. This mission marked the first crewed orbital launch by a private company, SpaceX. It was also the first crewed orbital launch from U.S. soil since the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011. Crew Dragon autonomously docked with the ISS, demonstrating its capability to transport astronauts to and from the space station. This mission was a significant milestone in commercial spaceflight, showcasing the ability of private companies to develop and operate crewed spacecraft. It paved the way for subsequent operational crewed missions, and since then, SpaceX has conducted several Crew Dragon missions to the ISS. Please note that developments in space exploration may have occurred since my last update in January 2022, so I recommend checking more recent sources for the latest information on private spacecraft and their flights. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.